Today we're talking about experts travel. It actually has come to me, this topic came to me because once again, Joel is traveling. Joel is at a conference this week speaking. He's at
Camp
Camp
MoGraph.
MoGraph, yeah. He brought his pillow and his backpack and I think some power bars and they're eating hot dogs and macaroni and cheese all week. I don't know, like all that goes into Camp MoGraph, but he's definitely out there doing it, putting himself out there. And then I'm gone next week. And Emma, I think you just came back from our conference too. So
That's
we're
right.
actually out there traveling a little bit. And it's been such a big boost, this one-on-one meetings and meeting face-to-face. So we thought to kind of like talk about that and ask some of the bigger questions. What are people seeing and feeling?
Yeah, I love it. No, I think traveling has been something that we've all been missing. I know the conference that I was at felt like coming home to family in a way, because it's people that you see all the time online in this little bubble or in this little screen, and you forget sometimes that they have more dimension than just the one that you see online.
You know what? We had this really amazing thing happen this week with an NFT project. One of our clients is an NFT project, and that is all online right now. Most of those projects live in a Discord server, Twitter feeds, OpenSea JPEG things, whatever. It's a completely an online environment, an online phenomenon. But this week, some of the community members reached out to the creators, the builders, the guys at the office, and they reversed the script on us. They sent us on a scavenger hunt to give us a thank you note for their 1 year anniversary is tomorrow. So a thank you note. It was just super great.
That's fun.
And I was thinking like how different it is to have this small group of people that came together. But what's interesting is over and over in the comments, they talk about how they have built community, have made friends, and have done something unique. But you're right, it's all been online. But I know the moments when we've got together personally with the same group of people within the community, it is that reunion feeling, the one that you just mentioned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. So we say this here at RevThink, we say experts travel. Now, can you tell me a little bit about why we say that to our clients? And like, we want you as creative people to travel, right? So like, what is behind that? Why do we say that?
Yeah, it's actually kind of a fun term and a fun saying we have, because what we're proclaiming is expertise, right? So what we're saying is, hey, in the travel process, if you're really an expert, you're desired. It's necessary for you to show up. You need to be there when the moment's happening because you're the expert and it can't help it happen without you. So there is like this recognition that when you have an expertise and you're the one person that knows how to do it, you're welcome in the room. And you should understand that there's like this tipping point that happens. So I love that kind of twist on it when we're really proclaiming expertise, but saying, travel has an element to it. Here's an easy example. Imagine you're in the middle of a process with your client and you tell the client, hey, I need your approval on this thing I'm making. Can you travel, come to our office, sit down with us and process this problem with us? Right? We can often understand and recognize why that would be beneficial, how huge that is, but also the commitment from the client to be willing to get up and go do that. And the reason why we'd put that person in that situation is that we're saying, this is a very important moment. Come be available physically, sit here with us and let's have that conversation, or have physical eyes on this with us. That live interaction is important when we're making this decision.
Yeah.
So when we say that, let's imagine flipping that now and saying, you're the vendor. Shouldn't you want that kind of appearance to be alive, be available, and have that conversation with your clients?
Now, okay, so like we kind of talked about conferences, but you're applying this also to just a client meeting, like experts travel anywhere, travel to a client meeting, travel to a conference, a party. Like, is that what you mean?
Yeah, I think you're right. That comes at different scales. So, a conference is an easy way to get into a community. It's an easy way to invite yourself into that expertise. Because if there's a specialized conference, that you recognize, hey, that's a small group of people. I'll buy a ticket. Now I'm in the room with that small group of experts. And to be honest, every expert in that room is on the same page. Nobody really besides the speakers, no one really knows each other. So that networking, which is what, the world is about, has that ability to connect on a level playing field. So conferences really allow yourself to be called out at that level. On the other end of the spectrum is, being invited into someone's personal office. Like when Elon Musk calls Colin into his office to solve one of his problems for him, Colin knows he made it, right? So Colin's not going to go, no, I'll just do a Zoom meeting, Elon, no problem. Like he's freaking showing up. He'll get on a private jet if he has to get there on time, right?
Sure.
So there's this moment of like the other end of the spectrum is how would I ever be able to get in that room with Elon? Now I have a strategy that I'm going to execute through my life, my career, my work, so that I actually show up in that room. I want to be there in that room. How do I get there? And that scope or that strategy of time and effort and commitment to make that happen, that's the other end of the spectrum. So one, it could be very easy. I can buy my way into it, be welcome. The other could be a long game, but also I get in that room, the room I want to be in.
Yeah. I love that because you're building that. I think you said it already, but you're building commitment to the community, because by the third time you've attended the annual gathering of whatever Promax executives, then you start to be a familiar face and you start to have more shared experiences. And even when you meet someone for the first time, you could reference an earlier conference and you're immediately more credible or you're more connected. So I totally agree. I think it's kind of a tangible way to buy credibility, to buy yourself into the room a little bit. And it's easier and sometimes than others.
Well, it's expressing interest too, right? I mean, you're not there just to network. You're saying, hey, the problems that you're solving, I'm solving too. Hey, the issues and the ideas and the big picture items that you're processing, I want to be around when we're processing it because I want to have a voice in the room, but also not be a fool and miss out on great opportunity. But I did hear, there are like community building objectives in life. And someone advised me once that it's the third time you meet a person in a different location is when you become their friend. Right. So you might meet somebody at work every single day of your entire life and never have a friendship. But when that person at work has a kid that goes to your school and then you go over to their house for dinner, that's the tipping point. So there is like that recognition that I can meet you in one area, but there's an effort to get to know you that has to break the barrier of the same routine that gets there. And that expert travel moment has that ability too. Hey, I met you at this conference. Now I'm going to go to New York City. How about I reach out to you specifically and say, hey, are you available for coffee? And then at that moment, at the coffee, recognize, hey, there's a moment here for me to invite you to go over to this dinner I'm having. So now that third dinner, now there's a level of trust for it. So there are kind of like community building, networking strategies involved in as well.
Yeah. And even in the same event, you can go out to the conference and see the networking and whatever, but then you run into them at the bar later. And that's one trip, but you could still count it as 2 touch points. Yeah.
Joel and I look back on these conferences we did with Promax down at the beach. And everyone showed up the night before. So nothing really organized, but we happened to get like 12 of us in the bar together. Right. Then when we went down we teach the next day, it's a totally different environment. Joel, you're already friends. For the crowd. Yeah. Totally, like we're already very comfortable. We start calling people out. And then, the next Promax big conference, you find each other, beeline to each other. We shared a moment. We can reminisce, whatever. Right. So, that's what happened to me in my last conference I went to. Thursday night, it was like the dinner, and then we all went out for drinks, and we stayed out late. And all of a sudden, it's like we have the first day of the conference tomorrow. We can't stay out till 2 a.m. But you're already friends with these people, and then you can start the week with a great connection. Yeah, so that's where we say, conferences are amazing. Like you can honestly get invited and get into the room and network. That's huge, and that's with your competitors your employees, your future clients, all that stuff happens in that one room. That it's a great opportunity.
Yeah.
Another reason I like to travel, the idea of experts travel, is there's a moment to show gratitude. And actually, it's interesting where, we'll take the time as Rev thinkers when we're working with a new client to say, hey, we'll come out and see you. So I have a new client. I'm going to go out and see them in October in Washington, D.C. When I show up at their office, they're going to see that I'm there, I'm real. And the first words they're going to say is like, thanks for coming. And that work for the thank you mentality is something that's really great to have, where you take the extra effort to start an engagement, show that you're real, and express your expertise, but it reverses to someone to say like, wow, that's awesome, thank you. And that reverse kind of gratitude, the ability to express gratitude, thanks for the opportunity, it's really very meaningful for me, that's why I came here to do that. And the fact that someone say it back, there's like a wonderful exchange of gratitude between two bodies when that happens. I've spoken at conferences. You've been in the same situation where a conference owner or conference founder that you are so happy to be on a stage. It's interesting how much that person comes to you and says, thanks for being here. It was really great. Thank you.
Yep.
And you're thinking, are you kidding me? Thanks for inviting me. Thanks for giving me this chance. Thanks for giving me that stage. So we know that even, on a big level, again, on a conference, all the way down to that one-on-one meeting with a client in a room, there's something of a great exchange of gratitude between the two.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're almost talking about like paying it back into the community for the people that maybe can't travel to you. You can travel to them and still get that connection in a way.
Yeah, it shows that you're real and that you care, right? There's a caring moment in that ability or desire or effort it takes to get there. So if truly, I live in Oregon, I fly to Los Angeles, it's a 2-hour flight. I can come here in a day and fly back. Or if I'm flying from Oregon to London, that same effort, small or big, I still feel the same exchange with individuals. In Los Angeles, I'm pretty sure if you drove from Santa Monica to Pasadena, they would recognize that as a major effort too, because that's a longer drive than it takes me to fly to Los Angeles. But I think there is something when you recognize that the Zoom exchange doesn't really get there. There's a half-hour segment, I pressed the button, I showed up, we exchanged, I hung up, and no one says, hey, Tim, thanks for the effort of jumping on that Zoom call with us. It's rare when it happens.
Do you think maybe it has to do with the sacrifice? Like I'm sacrificing time and money to be here. Not right now. I'm not on the Zoom, but when you travel, it's like you are. And if you're at a conference together, you're both doing that. But then if I'm going to you, for example, then it's more one way. And then I feel that like, oh, wow, Tim really cares.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think there's that last kind of hanging element of commitment, So not only that effort that you're talking about or the sacrifice to get there also expresses something of commitment of I'm serious about this. Or again, like imagine being the expert and the client came to you, you would recognize it as serious. This must be a big deal. They came out here to see me. They probably really came out here for the beach, but I'm happen to be a good excuse or whatever.
Right.
There's some reality of that too. But that commitment they're willing to make, that feeling you would have if someone came to see you is the same opportunity that you can express when you go and visit and see them. Or when you're at a bigger event and you beeline to them and you make direct contact with them. Hey, I've been meaning to meet you for the longest time. I've been a fan of yours. Or, hey, it's so great to see you again. Even just, to call someone out in a bigger crowd, you get that awesome personal exchange. And I think it's great. I think there's something really about it, that commitment, that gratitude, that expression of expertise that comes to that face-to-face conversation. Like, I think that's real. And that's where you become a known player in this field because you've taken that effort or put that effort out there and do it.
Now, so let's connect this back to everybody's favorite topic, which is sales. Like, are we in the business of traveling to, like, so we travel to build relationships to sell? Like, is that sort of the strategy in this scenario?
Well, let's recognize that networking often leads to sales, right? That's why we're there. And that there's, as a business owner, of course, you always want to generate revenue, but that networking also builds up your employment pool. So meeting new artists, talking about people's expertise, recognizing your opportunity to hire somebody in a competitive marketplace, that's another great reason to kind of reach out and do something. Personal growth is huge. So I've gone to non-creative industry growth seminars.
Did we lose Tim? Hello? I'm still here. I see all of you. Okay. Well, okay. So Tim is talking about, let me see if I can get rid of him. Let's see.
Yeah.
Are you back?
I think am I back? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
It's all right.
Joel and I went through a process of business brokers just to find out about why and how people buy and sell businesses, because our clients are walking through that. And just be in a room full of people that are thinking the same and processing the same is also a great kind of like boost for yourself. But yeah, getting down to sales, clearly, if you are traveling, there's this huge opportunity to say, hey, I'm in your neighborhood. Should we get together? And that coffee, that lunch, even going to their meeting, and don't be rude. Don't just have an open-ended meeting saying, hey, I have a half hour I can spend with you. If I came by your office, do you have 10 minutes to say hi? And that 10 minutes, 15 minutes connection, don't plant yourself there for 2 hours and the person doesn't have that kind of time, but you can make those great connections. And that's huge. It's a huge boost.
Okay. So tactically, what would you actually say? Would you say, hey, Tim, I'm actually in Medford. I don't mean to take your time. I'm not trying to sell you something, but it would just be great to see you. Is that something you would say? Or do you want to talk about a project or something?
No. So if I was, let's say I was traveling to New York, on LinkedIn, I would reach out to people or someone I wanted to meet and say, or if I had their email, I might say it. I'd say, hey, I'm going to be in New York the week of the 15th. If you have, I'd love to come by and see your office. Or I want to, are you available? Do you have any time available? Or one other question I can ask is, hey, I'm going to be on the 15th. I'd love to take you to dinner if you have time. And I tell them why. Hey, I'd love to take you to dinner. I would really love to hear about how you guys did this, amazing presentation that I saw. I'd just love to hear more about what you've done. And a lot of people love to share and express, like, get it out. It's very often people ask me how I accomplish something great, right? Most of the time people put something on me to do, so I don't get that chance. So I get this kind of boost when someone asks me to express myself, share my knowledge, give them some kind of encouragement. And that invitation, I'll often say yes to. So I put the people in the same place and ask them, like, hey, if you have a moment, I'd love to come by and see you. If I was really strategic, I'd say, I'm going to be uptown tomorrow. I'd give them 24 hours notice. I'm going to be uptown tomorrow in your neighborhood. I have like an hour to kill between two meetings. Do you have 15 minutes? I can just come by and see you at the office.
Sure.
And people would be like, yeah, come on over. I'd be happy to. And when I show up, people are saying, I know you only have a little bit of time. You want me to show you the office? Want me to give you a tour? Yeah, give me a tour.
Yeah, I've been on those meetings with you. It's fun.
Yeah.
The traveling, and you kind of feel like a guest of honor, but then your presence also makes them feel honored. So it's kind of it's a mutual, as long as you don't come in like a salesman, be like, hey, I have 10 minutes, but can I just show you these slides real quick? Like,
you're looking for the moment they can ask you a question, right? Because you're creating engagement. And I don't mean finding a project. I mean creating engagement where you can express what your expertise is and they can express what their problems are. So you're looking for a moment. A tour is a great one. You say, oh, you guys have one of those? You guys have a flame? Who's your flame artist? Is that how you get your graphics done? Wow,
Right.
that's amazing. That's really great. I've only worked in After Effects. I didn't realize, but you can, now you're finding the problem. Oh, you do graphics on a flame, right? Put that aside. I do graphics in After Effects. But you just have that little exchange that you recognize that thing in common. And that just comes from a basic tour. And Colin's right. You don't have to be telling the truth, right? You can actually say, I'm going to be uptown next Wednesday. And you know what you're going to do? You're going to fly there so that you're uptown on that Wednesday, especially if it's a key client. But you can, Joel calls it the anchor meeting. You find a person to anchor one meeting around, and then everyone else, you recognize, well, since I'm going to be there on Wednesday, I could also see someone on Tuesday night and somebody on Thursday morning before I take off, and make the best of the time that you're there.
Yeah. Yeah. You were telling me about the days of RevThink when you would do that and just fly down to LA just for the possibility of a meeting, even because experts travel. So if you can use that hook, and it attracts attention. Fio was saying he traveled and had no trouble setting up meetings with EP, CMO, agency owners, people that were just interested to meet because he was in town.
Yeah. How many people do you get in a situation where they say, so what brings you to town? And when that question comes up, it's an easy question. It's one of the common ones. Why are you here? And you say, oh, I'm here because one of your competitors really needed my expertise. That person in front of you was a little bit jealous. Oh man, you're working with them, So even that welcoming that question, what brought you to town, so that you can say, oh, I'm really busy.
Right.
I'm actually only had an hour to meet with you because I was going from one meeting, I'm going to the next meeting, and I only have an hour to meet with you. Says I'm busy. But you're important to me. I would love to fit you in between my busy schedule. And all that's kind of expressed using this, stealing the moment, really, that I'm here, let's do something.
This reminds me of something I heard. It was either Blair Enns or David Baker said on their podcast that you are the prize to be won. Like, your creative expertise is what they're looking for. So because you're busy and you're sought after, it helps to improve their perception of you as well.
That's a great saying.
And he doesn't have time for me, but he's fitting me in. So I really should make sure that I'm there.
Yeah, that's a really great saying. What we have is, we often have a sense of imposter syndrome. Like, we're not really part of the club yet, or I have to apologize my way into situations. And when we say experts travel, we're saying, don't apologize. You already are the expert. That's why you're there.
Right.
You already have been accepted when they said yes. You don't have to prove yourself, to say, hey, can I come by and see you? The minute they say yes, you don't have to convince them anymore that you're an expert. They welcomed you into the room as the expert. So now you can actually sit back and ask questions. Tell me more about yourself. Tell me more about your process. Tell me where you work. Tell me who you work with. Like, those are great questions you can ask someone else. And just like, I think it was in the Incredibles, getting get the bad guy to monologue is the way to get through whatever.
Yeah.
The moment.
That's right.
Get them to monologue. Let them hear them, listen to them, understand them.
Right.
They're going to feel connected for you and to you, and then you get this opportunity to kind of grow and express that as well.
Yeah, and one thing too, when you're traveling, it does feel, when you meet with someone, that there's a sliver that you've carved out for them, so they're going to be present for that time as well. Hopefully, like, it's not the same as a Zoom meeting where I'm going to check my email or, yeah, tell me what you got. You're a salesperson, just hit me with your pitch. But you got that more full engagement with them while you're there.
It's funny you say that, because recently, so talking about Zoom, and recently I heard this where an executive producer got onto a call with potential clients, and it was like a couple of creative directors, the account manager, who wanted this company to pitch on a job for them. When they got onto the call, none of those clients had their cameras on. So this EP said to them, hey, just so you know, if you want us to do this, everyone needs to turn on their camera and kind of show us their faces and be engaged, or it's okay. We're not that interested in actually just being your triple bid. And everyone turned on their camera. He actually asked them, hey, if you're doing this out of your convenience, don't do it out of my inconvenience in a way. Sure. And he flipped it on them. So there is something to say, if you are on Zoom, turn your camera on. But I thought it was so great that he thought he could kind of express himself and say, no, you have a commitment to me on a Zoom call. We didn't get on a conference call. We got on a Zoom call. show up, turn on your camera. And they loved it. They totally loved it. Yeah, exactly, Colin. It's actually,
Crazy.
yeah, I think it was James from Laundry, right? I think that's what the story was.
I don't know.
So if you guys
Haven't
know
heard that
James,
story.
we can call James out on Community and ask him the real story, because he'll tell you what it is. But it was great. It was just something of recognizing, even on Zoom, we do need to make these connections of commitment and.
Tim, we lost you. Start over from the
gratitude. You have to engagement. So we want to steal those people to engage with us. How do we show up and do that? Did I lose you again?
Yeah. Can you just start from your beginning of your little monologue?
I was just saying what we're looking for is full engagement, right? So in sales, we're looking for engagement to get money. Right. But that idea of full engagement is recognizing and asking people to show up, to express themselves, to be part of the process. And it's in that engagement where the value is. So yeah, that's when you're just think of those two words in mind, full engagement. When you're out there and reaching out, traveling expresses full engagement. I'm committed to getting there. But on Zoom, with that in mind, we can ask questions. How do I get full engagement from the people on the Zoom call? And how do I start that?
Yeah. Well, speaking of, we have a few minutes left. There have been like 4 or 5 comments in the chat this week about everybody getting their cameras back on. So there's another little way that we can engage with each other as a community. We're showing our faces on camera. Not to say that you can't be here without your camera, but I'm glad to hear that people are appreciating that.
I'm going to answer a couple of these questions too, because people are asking it. So Colin asks, do you find that drinks or dinner are better than meeting during your work week? I'd love to hear what other people are thinking too. If you just want to throw some comments here. Here's how I divide the two up. I often go out to dinner with people when I want to hear about their life. And sometimes I find that that's very helpful. So if there's a husband and wife team, if there's something that I know I can work through, I want that longer time period so I can do something different than at the workplace. But sometimes I feel like that's very selfish to ask somebody, hey, will you go out to dinner with me? Go out to drinks with me. It also feels a little bit like I'm going to give you something so that you give me something. So I'm very careful with that expression or time. If people have gone to a cohort dinner, they actually know the kind of dinners that Joel and I like to have. It's the one that says, we're going to open up the table for conversation. We want the community to grow and to develop and build. And that ability to come in and participate, but also get something from us that's greater, I think there's the right kind of exchange that I put out there. So if it's one-on-one or a big cohort dinner, that's the kind we want. The meetings in the office are the ones that say, I'm here for business.
Sure.
I do something for a living. You do something for a living. I'm an expert. I'd love to hear what's going on with you. The reason I'm here is there was some previous invite or some previous moment that I thought I could follow up on, and this is the right way to do it. So when I visited a client in Burbank a couple of days ago, I went to their office to say, oh no, you reached out to me. I'm serious. I'll come up to your office. Tell me what's going on. Oh, that's really great. I can see the issues, literally see them and meet the people. I got what I need to. I can now do follow-up calls with you. So I just I don't know if one is better than the other, but I kind of use each one differently.
Right. Yeah. And drinks can be a little bit of a different tone too, because it's a little more casual, but it's also shorter, and potentially you can duck out or they could duck out if it doesn't go well or whatever. So it's just a different tool. I like that.
Yeah. And then there's also, I think I've said this enough, but I think that when you're considering travel, you have to give the other person an out. I think it's very fair that you don't steal all their time and don't recognize what it takes to meet with you. I think there's a kind of a good balance there. So if they're inviting you to dinner and drinks and what have you, feel welcomed in. But what they're doing is saying, hey, I have a half-hour time slot. Can you fit it? You show up on time, you recognize the time, and you call them out then, hey, I know you only had a half hour. I don't want to steal all your time.
Right.
It was really great to meet you. You don't have to data dump in that half hour.
Right.
I only have you for half hour. So here,
give me everything.
and then I'm going to pull and show you my website.
My business card. Yeah.
You're looking for engagement so that they will go to the website or ask you more questions. But yeah, you don't, all you're going to do is get someone that's going to glaze their eyes over and wish they only gave you 15 minutes instead of 30, right?
Yeah, that's how I felt at this conference I went to. There was a person I really wanted to talk to, and I kind of limited how much I went up and talked to him because I want to have that relationship rather than just the small window. Like it's like killing the golden goose. Like I'm not gonna dump all the things on that person at the one time, but if I build the relationship, maybe I'll have a chance later.
Yeah. And, at a conference, if you're asking a question or going to someone's office, the smart way to ask a question is not to ask a question that's self-fulfilling. You don't go there like, hey, my name is Tim. I'm a consultant. Also, I actually work with all these companies. Let me ask you a question. How would you hire me? Right? You never ask that.
Right.
What's better is to say, hey, I listened to your speech. I actually listened to it. I heard you say this. Can you tell me more about that thing that you want to say more about?
Right.
Even if I don't necessarily care to hear it again, the fact that they're willing to talk about it creates engagement. Hey, I heard you. I hear this is very important to you. In my question, tell me more about that thing you want to talk about. That person leans into you, and you know what they're going to do later at the conference? Hey, that was a great question. Thanks for asking it. Second meeting, right? I'm 2 meetings down, one more to go, and I'll get.
Well, speaking of respecting people's time, I think we're right at the point where we should wrap it up. So do you have any other closing thoughts?
No, I really appreciate this. I'm going to miss you guys next week. I think Emmett and Joel are going to have to do it. So Emmett, thanks again for kind of filling in. I feel like
I'm like the second string quarterback.
We might actually have three of us to be doing this pretty soon. Just two of us.
Thanks for having me.
But there are people in the community that are in the same boat as many of you. There's great opportunities to engage in the community and ask these questions and throw that out there. And Matt, I saw you jumped on here at the very end, but Matt Packwood actually throws conferences. So he knows what it's like, and he can even coach you through it more of like what it's like, what the politics are, and what wins. So get to know each other. That's why community is there. That's why we do these briefings. So thanks for being here. We want you to know that we exist so that you can thrive in your business, in your life, your career, and let's add community to that today in your community. So
there you go.
Thanks for all being here. We'll talk to you guys later.
Bye, everybody.